This is the painting safety video. It's a little bit more procedure than safety, but it is very important to see how we use the paints in the art room. So you're going to be using tempera paints. Tempera paints are the paints in these small bottles, and tempera paint is washable, it's bright, and it dries with a matte or a dull sheen. It's not shiny, but the good thing about it is it washes out of brushes really easily and washes off of your clothes if you were to spill it. So the brushes are stored by the sink in 3 containers. There's the wide flat brushes, the medium round brushes that can come to a small point, and then what I call the world's tiniest paintbrushes, or my smallest, finest detailed paintbrushes. So when you're painting, it's important to know which size paintbrush to use, and if you're painting a big flat area, use a big flat brush. If you want a little more control of your shapes, go for a medium round brush, and then if you're doing small details like small lines or outlines or faces, use a small detailed brush. In this tub are various plates and lids and containers for you to put paint on, and all of these containers can get washed. This plate had acrylic paint that dried on it. You're going to want to probably use a cat dish with some sponges in it. Make sure the sponges are damp, not soaking. A cup for some water. And when I fill the cups, I want you to fill them up about halfway full. That way if they spill, it's only a little bit of water. If you're using the cat dish by yourself, go ahead and move a sponge over to one side. If you like to carry it like this, makes it kind of easy to carry your water and your sponges together. Now when you are ready to pour the paint, make sure you put your finger on top, shake it, because sometimes they've sat for a while, and only use what you need. Today you need about the size of a quarter on your plate. If you're ever going to do a project where you need to save some paint to the next day, we can either put your lid in a bag, or you can use some of these small containers. Or if you know you only need just a little bit of a certain color, come over to these ice cube trays and find one that has a color you like. Sometimes adding just a little bit of water into the tray will also bring back the paint that has dried out to life or reconstitute it. Please put your paints back before you start painting so that anybody else that's painting can easily find the colors that they need. In this cup are some tools for texture. So I've got forks and combs and some other objects. Grab a texture tool, bring it over to your table with your paintbrushes and your water and your sponges. The messy mats sit in this basket over here so that everybody can find them when they need to use them. Grab a messy mat for your project today, and you're going to use a piece of scratch paper or your sketchbook to do your practice work in today. Scratch paper is in the purple duct tape box up here at the Drawing Center. Once you're ready to paint with your messy mats underneath, you're going to use your flat brush to just do a wash. A wash is just a covering of paint. Now, since I want you to do some texture, make sure you apply the paint pretty thickly, and then before it's dry, I want you to practice flipping your paintbrush over or using your texture tool to try putting in some lines. Zigzag, straight, wavy, you decide. You could also write words, you name, you decide, but fill up that space with texture. Now for this project, if you wanted to add a second color in and show me that you can blend colors, that would be something that you could practice doing today as well. Take your round brush in some of the space you have left empty, and I want you to write your name in pencil or pen. Write it nice and big so that you can practice painting. And practice holding the paintbrush on its tippy toes. Don't squish it down until you hit the metal or hit the end of the paintbrush. Sometimes you'll have to thin out your paint with a little bit of water to make it flow nicely. But by keeping your paintbrush on the end, you can get some really thin lines with just a medium brush. The sponge is there for you to dry off the brush if you are going to switch colors or if you have a little bit too much paint on your brush. When you're done writing your name in paint, then you're ready to take your artwork over to the drying rack. I like to wipe the paintbrush off on the lip, wipe it on the sponge to dry it, and the drying rack is in the front of the room up by the drawing center. When you're using the drying rack, it is best to start at the bottom of the rack. Sometimes small papers won't go in very easily. If that happens, keep your little paper on your messy mat and slide the whole messy mat in, but start at the bottom of the rack, please. Then the cleanup part. Sometimes cleanup in painting takes the most amount of time, so if you're painting, you want to give yourself about 8 to 10 minutes to really do a good job of cleaning up. You're going to bring every material back over to the sink, and you're going to start by running some water on your plate. Sometimes I use a big wide brush or any of the scrubbies or cloths that are hanging at the sink to wash the plate. Look at the back for any paint that may have gotten stuck on the back, and then put it back in the drying rack by the sink or back into the white tub. To wash your brushes, you're going to use some soap on your hands and scrub the paintbrush gently in your hands until you don't see any color running into the water. You may have to do it 2 or 3 times in order to get the brushes really clean. Please take care of the brushes once they're clean. Shape them back by pulling the bristles back up straight. Wash any of your texture tools and put them back in the correct spots. Please store them bristles up or hair in the air so they don't get bent while they're drying. When you're ready to bring your water back to clean the water cups, I dump the water out and run a little water, swirl it out. If it's really messy, you can use a sponge or a washcloth to wipe any of the extra paint out. With the sponges, to help keep them working, go ahead and run them under some running water, squeeze them out really well, and then just set them back into their little spots on the dish, and then stack those back up so we don't have them all over the counter. And that's it for the painting center.